2026 is the year where a decades-long cinematic universe finally comes full circle to deliver its ultimate endgame. I am, of course, talking about... If you want to understand the purity of physical cinema, you can study the silent film masters, you can dissect Charlie Chaplin's spatial awareness, you can analyse Buster Keaton's stoicism, or you can watch a grown man willingly take a right control mind to the abdomen in front of his giggling friends. With the release of Jackass Best and Last, we're officially at the culmination of a decades-long cinematic experiment, and I'm going to say something that would get most people laughed out of any film school. The Jackass crew are some of the most important filmmakers of the 21st century.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, welcome to Jackass! Whoa!
Look, beneath the shit, the dick and the balls, this franchise is a masterclass in Gonzo journalism, technical innovation, and most surprisingly profound emotional endurance. To understand Jackass, you have to understand where it came from. It didn't spawn from a boardroom of studio executives, it was birthed in the late 90s skate punk aesthetic of Big Brother magazine. This is the blood-soaked heir to Hunter S. Thompson's Gonzo journalism. In Gonzo, the journalist isn't just an observer, they're the central character, the instigator, and usually the casualty. The creators Johnny Knoxville and Jeff Tremaine, along with Spike Jonze, took that ethos and stripped away the need for words altogether. The result is pure, unadulterated visual storytelling that requires absolutely zero translation. I had an epiphany around this a few years ago. I was out late with my wife, we were in Phuket, Thailand, on Walking Street, where all the bars are. We were sitting there, late, drinking, and on the televisions, Jackass number 2 came on, and we stayed and watched it from start to finish. This is 20-something years after the movie came out, halfway across the planet, and the entire bar, locals and expats, tourists who didn't share a single word of a common language, were laughing, groaning, wincing and cringing in perfect unison. It was the Looney Tunes logic brought to life in the real world. Pain and laughter are the only true universal languages, and these guys are completely fluent. It's incredibly cynical of Hollywood to write these movies off as cheap parlour tricks, because technically Jackass has consistently pushed the boundaries of modern filmmaking. Yes, when James Cameron spent hundreds of millions trying to convince us that 3D was the future with Avatar, Jackass 3D actually perfected the format. We did a nearly half-hour deep dive on this, please check it out. But just to give you the base, they realised 3D wasn't for sweeping alien vistas, it wasn't for messy post-conversion. They took the high-speed Phantom camera and captured a dildo flying out of a cannon directly into the cinema screen. It remains the single greatest execution of the technology in cinematic history, and it's an absolute crime that you cannot get the 3D Blu-ray or copy and watch this legally. Look, during the pandemic, when the rest of the industry was completely paralysed, Jackass Forever, the fourth one, established the gold standard for COVID-safe closed bubble shooting. And while Marvel was drowning us in muddy CGI, Jeff Tremaine and Johnny Knoxville were bringing back the charm of old-school Godzilla movies, utilising practical effects, miniature model filmmaking, and a penis painted green to give us an opening, but it was a masterclass. They understood the art of the visual gag. And let's not forget the physical media. They pioneered the 0.5 format. They shot with such relentless efficiency, they gave us entire secondary theatrical cuts for parts 2, 3 and 4. To really grasp how the Jackass cinematic universe evolved, we should look at one of its most important mutations, and that was Wildboyz. When the original MTV series ended, the franchise could have easily fizzled out. Instead, Chris Pontius and Steve-O took the show on the road, creating a spin-off that quickly became its own distinct, beautiful entity. What started as an excuse to travel the globe escalated into an absurd, yet somewhat educational nature documentary. By the time they reunited for Jackass number 2, the lines were completely blurred.
Today's debate. Is it wrong to be strong? You be the judge.
Yeah, Bam just took a golden dildo up his ass at high speed. That's what happened.
Suddenly the films weren't just about suburban backyard stunts anymore, they were weaponizing Mother Nature herself, snapping turtles, Mako shards. The Jackass films absorbed Wildboyz, elevating the scale of the movies from local pranks to international wildlife survival. The real legacy of Jackass isn't the cameras or the sharks, it's what happened when the cameras stopped rolling. As a youth, watching the original series of MTV felt like a gateway to a world of rebellion you were yet to experience, but as we grew up so did they, and the reality of their lifestyle caught up. We watched these guys go through devastating addiction, crazy wildness, and heartbreaking loss. But we're now on the other side, witnessing something deeply profound. Steve-O in particular managed to take the void left by severe chemical addiction and fill it with the adrenaline of the stunt, and more importantly the laughter of his friends. They started as a bunch of dumb kids hurting themselves for tape. Today I'd argue they're pillars of mental strength and trauma-bonded brotherhood. That brings us now, June 2026, the release of Jackass Best and Last. When Jackass Forever hit theatres, we assumed it was the swan song, but the universe had other plans. They've created Best and Last not as a traditional sequel, a victory lap, a living museum with their own 25-year history. We have to look at the cold hard numbers. There is a moment in Best and Last where Johnny Knoxville is strapped into an electric chair for a lie detector stunt. Steve-O looks at him and asks a beautifully cynical question. Did you host Fear Factor just for the money, or to further your creative desires? It's a hilarious meta jab, but a question you could easily point directly at this movie. Because let's be real about the box office history. The first Jackass movie made $79 million back in 2001. That's $147 million adjusted for inflation. Number 2, $139 million adjusted for inflation. By the time Jackass 3D rolled around, it was a massive event. $262 million in today's money. The franchise was a license to print. Hell, even Bad Grandpa managed $150 million. But Jackass Forever, the swan song, it hit the brick wall of the post-COVID theatre lull. It ground out $80 million. So when a die-hard fan, someone who grew up on their old CKY tapes, the Don't Try This at Home DVDs, Wildboyz, the live shows, the chaotic appearances on Shark Week, sees a 5th film announced, the cynicism kicks in. You start to wonder, for everything these guys have put their bodies through, they look at a vault full of unseen footage, feel a little spark of fire in their bellies and decide to take one final dip at the box office pool. In an era of Hollywood, where every franchise is desperate to cash in on lazy legacy sequels, Jackass is doing it with a lot more honesty. The film is a unique structural pivot, a compilation of brand new stunts mixed with a treasure trove of unreleased archive footage, the greatest hits. Going into the theatre, I was worried about that exactly, how much of the final movie was going to be recycled old stuff. Honestly, it's not the cheap cash grab I was terrified of. There's a fair whack of archival material, sure, but it's treated with context. We get extended cuts, alternative angles, re-edits like bringing Bam Margera directly back for the Silence of the Lambs parody, and I have to be honest, I sat there grinning the whole time. Nearly, because it's Jackass. There's still plenty of genuinely wince-inducing moments. But it comes with a major caveat. This is Jackass Lite. Don't worry, you're still getting the core elements. Poop, vomit, buttholes, penises. But it's undeniably lacking any kind of scope or scale that the predecessors had. The new material was clearly shot in a tight window, isolated to warehouses, or film sets, a few sparse outdoor setups, but it just doesn't have the grand cinematic feel. And the new cast additions from Jackass Forever still feel stilted and forced. Because when I talk about that legendary core brotherhood and camaraderie, it doesn't apply to the new blood. Though Poopies definitely earned some stripes here. The lip filler stunt was hilarious. But looking back at the history of the saga, every chapter served a purpose. The first movie was that rare breed of a television show, successfully making the leap to the big screen. The second was the mythical bigger and better sequel, almost unheard of, particularly in comedy. Jackass 3D pioneered premium formats, and Forever pioneered the pandemic filmmaking. So how do we look at Best and Last? And maybe we should look at it as a rare example of our heroes going out entirely on their own terms. The final lads weekend, one last hurrah. If Jackass 3D was Indiana Jones riding off into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade, then this movie's Dial of Destiny It's a final, slightly battered adventure taken before gracefully accepting that age, time, and gravity catch up with all of us. I'm going to be completely naked and vulnerable with you for a second. I went to see this movie entirely on my own. That's not unheard of. That's what I've done for pretty much every single review on this channel. But the truth is, this weekend was penciled in for a getaway with the lads. We were going to catch the England game on Saturday night, have plenty of beers, and see Jackass together. But as the weeks got closer, plans changed. They fizzled away. Life, family commitments, adult reality quietly settled in. And sitting there in that dark theatre by myself, watching the guys on the big screen again, I got this strange, heavy ache. Because you can say whatever you want about the Jackass crew, call them crude, call them idiots, call them reckless, but 25 years later they're still showing up. When the cameras roll, they're here for each other. But for 90 minutes, you get to step entirely out of your real world. You get to completely forget about the hottest June day ever recorded in the UK. You get to tune out the despair of adult reality, and for an hour and a half you get to sit there in the dark and laugh with your friends again. Even if those friends are up on a screen. Even if they're entering their 50s and covered in grey hair and scars. If you ask me, the producers shouldn't be warning us not to imitate them anymore. The new disclaimers should read that the producers insist that you and your dumb buddies try exactly what you see on the screen. Check in with your friends, hold them accountable, and practice male solidarity. Thank you, Jackass. Thank you, Johnny, Jeff, Bam, Steve-O, Pontius, Dave, Ryan, Wee Man, and Preston. But most of all, fuck you, Aaron. For all the juvenile chaos, Jackass is ultimately a documentary about the enduring power of camaraderie. It's a longitudinal study on how to survive your own worst impulses by leaning on the guy standing next to you. If this is truly the last time we ever see this group of idiots together on a cinema screen, then speaking straight from the heart of a fan, I'm just incredibly happy we got more. Is it wrong to be strong?
You be the judge.
Would you like to know more?
Movies, popcorn.